Heroin addicts, fentanyl addicts, opioid addicts, there is something out there that can help you. I'm going to explain my story and how this all works. So, I am 38 years old. My name is Peter. I own my own business. I am successful. I own my own house. I'm in a great relationship. Things are great. But there was a time in my life where I was stuck. I was completely stuck. I was a slave to opioids, primarily heroin. Now, this was back in, it was back in when it first started, it was probably back in 2006. I was in college. I was smoking a lot of weed. Let me back up though. When I was young, I grew up in a middle-class family, parents, strict Catholics, somewhat here and there. And I went to a Catholic school. I played sports. I got good grades because it was not because I wanted to, because it was demanded of me. And I did all that. I got good grades, played all the sports, but there was always a feeling that something was missing in my life. And I got when we're young and dumb, we sometimes start to hang out with the wrong crowd, start to experiment. We'll smoke a little weed, we'll have some drinks, in high school, or some people nowadays even younger. And but that is, when they say gateway drug, I really truly believe that alcohol, and especially marijuana, it's true, and it's okay to admit it, that it is a gateway drug. Because once you do that, you're like, okay, and someone else is just at a party, or someone else shows up and they got this. And you kind of have this thought like, yeah, well, I've already done marijuana, I've already drank, and I've already done this and done that. Fine. So it makes it easier to do other things. So, I was an athlete, good grades, raised in a good household, and I became a heroin addict. How? I want to tell you all about it. I want everyone to know about this, because there is a way out of this for you that need hope. Because it gave me hope, and it really helps me. I went to college, and I was smoking a lot of weed, and there was a time when I ran out of weed, and I went out to college out in Wyoming, the state of Wyoming. Went to a school called Wyotech, and Wyotech, I have some pretty negative feelings towards, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily their fault. I made these decisions myself. But there was a guy in my class that would smoke heroin. And I didn't know it was heroin, but we were in the PM class, so we went to 6 to 1 o'clock in the morning. And afterwards, I would go and just hang out with him and his girlfriend at his house, at his apartment. And I was smoking so much weed, and I smoked weed for so long that I didn't know anybody out there in Wyoming that sold weed, and I eventually ran out of weed, and I didn't know anyone that sold it. And this guy was always smoking this stuff off of tinfoil. And he always asked me, he's like, you want to try it? You want to try it? You want to try it? I was like, nah, I'm good. I'll just smoke my weed and hang out. We'll watch a movie, whatever. Fine. And it was fine. Here's the thing. I know with TikTok videos and YouTube and everything, we got to get it cut down for people because of short attention spans. I get it. But fuck, dude, people are dying everywhere. They're dying everywhere. And I want people to know how easy it was for me, like a good kid that had a good upbringing, fairly decent upbringing, that got good grades and that was in sports and all that and everything else, how I got to that point, you know? And I think people think that if someone's on heroin or on fentanyl, that they're just a piece of shit, or they're probably from some shitty household, and they might be, who knows? But I wasn't. But for some reason, I had this huge hole in my heart, and I can feel where it is. It's like right here, and it's right here, and this hole is just this black darkness that has to be filled with something. And for some reason, and I don't know why, opioids, just, that hole collapses. And it's the wildest thing. And I think, opioids are overprescribed and all that stuff. But you look at, why does a heroin addict love heroin so much? Well, they have a hole in them. And for some crazy reason, and every heroin addict, every especially fentanyl addict would probably know and agree with me. Now, I've never done fentanyl, but I did a lot of heroin back in the day. Everyone would agree that, yeah, this fills the void. You have a void in you, and I don't know what that is. But you know what? Ibogaine. This is what I want to talk about. Ibogaine erases the void. I don't know how it works. I don't know how it does it. I don't know why it does it. I don't know. There's so many questions around it, but for some reason it does. It does. It fills the void as if there was never one in the first place. And doing Ibogaine is very difficult. So I went down to Mexico in May of 24, and I had to be there for 5 days before I even did it, because you can't be on anything when you do Ibogaine. So I was on methadone. I was on methadone for 12 years. 12 years. I was on methadone for 12 years. Even though it wasn't a lot, and I wasn't getting high from it every day at all. When I went down to Mexico, I was on 3 milligrams a day, which is nothing. It's nothing. But still, I had this thing in my head, like, if I try to just quit methadone, cold turkey, I'm gonna feel like an exposed nerve, and I'm gonna feel like crap all the time, and I'm gonna be just fighting these demons all over again. Fighting these demons all over again. Fighting these demons. This is a big deal. And every opioid addict knows this. Knows what this is like. Because it's going without your best friend. It's going without your girlfriend, your family. If you have it, again, like I said in the trailer, everything is fine. Everything is fine as long as you have it. If you don't have it, you are an exposed nerve in the world, and it sucks. And I didn't know who I was going to be. Being on methadone for 12 years, while methadone did give me an opportunity to get my life back on track, it also just made me a slave to being on methadone, to being on another drug. It just kind of substituted. While I didn't look for opioids, I didn't think about heroin and anything else, and I could focus on life. It still had issues. I think it still did things to me negatively. But anyways, so I go down to Mexico. I'm there for 5 days getting off of, they wanted me there for 5 days first to make sure all of the methadone was out of me. I had to have the methadone out of me. So they were giving me OxyContin, a small dose, like 5 milligrams or something. It was small, just to keep me out of withdrawal. And withdrawal is the worst thing. Withdrawal is the worst thing when it comes to opioids. It's the worst. So they had me on this for 5 days, and they gave me drug tests every day just to see, is the methadone still showing up in drug panels, all that. And then, and sure enough, 5 days later, the methanol was gone. I got my last dose of OxyContin, which again was a small dose. I got that. The last dose I got was on about 7 o'clock. And the next, because Oxy it's short acting. Methadone is long acting. It stays in your system for like 72 hours when you take it. But Oxy and regular opioids, they get out of your system pretty quick. So they gave me my last dose at like 7 o'clock p.m. And the next day, we started the Ibogaine treatment. And I did the Ibogaine. And when I did the first, so there's several doses of the Ibogaine that you take. And there's a nurse there sitting with you, and you're hooked up to heart monitoring stuff. And I had an IV at first, at least for like the first hour, just to make sure I was fluid. Like I had, and so I do the first dose, and I remember when I took the first dose, I felt nothing from it. And then an hour and a half later, you do another dose of the Ibogaine. They kind of spread it out. It's 4 or 5 doses of a big pill. And I remember starting to go through withdrawal, and it sucked. You get the kicks, and your legs are kind of, and all of a sudden, I heard a buzzing noise. And this nurse that's sitting with me, his name was Chewy. I look up in this vent. There's this HVAC vent up, and it sounded like this huge bee was buzzing in the vent. Zzz. And when you're doing the Ibogaine, they make you wear an eye mask because you have to have your eyes closed. And then you have these noise-canceling headphones on, and they're playing this kind of slow, soft, ethereal music. But I'm hearing this zzz, like really, like a huge bee is stuck in the HVAC. And I open my mask, and I lift and I said to the nurse that's sitting there, I'm like, the fuck is that? And he's like, what? I'm like, hello? What is that noise? He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, dude, and I lift my hand up when I pointed, I lift my hand up, and my hand kind of went zing, 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 zing. And I was like, oh, that's okay. Maybe it's starting to kick in. This is probably 2 hours after the first dose I took. I didn't feel anything. Anyways, so so I'm like, okay. I put the mask back on, I put the headphones back on, and I lay back, and I just kind of let this happen. I'm like, I paid a lot of money for this. I flew thousands of miles away, basically, to do this. I'm like, dude, just let this happen. And I went back. I laid down, and all of a sudden, I have pictures coming through, like Polaroid pictures coming through. And this is one of the craziest stories. I have a lot of them. But one of the Polaroids that came through, caught my eye, and I'm just looking at it, and all of a sudden, I am in this place in northeast Minneapolis, and I could pinpoint it on a map, the exact house and apartment that I was in. And I'm like sucked into this reality, and I'm looking at myself. I am sitting in the corner of this room, and there is this gal, Rachel, who I used to use with. And then there's another guy to the right of me. His name was Andy. And I'm sitting here in the corner with my legs crossed, and I got my arm out, and I'm like this with a needle. And I'm standing above me. Like, this is third party. I am looking at myself about to inject heroin into my freaking arm. And it was like time froze. So I'm looking at myself and I'm sitting there frozen. And the needle, on the needle, in bright red letters, big capital font, everything, it says poison on the needle. And right after poison, it says, it had a skull and crossbones, next to it. So I'm looking down at myself, this pale, weak, just soft drug addict in Northeast Minneapolis in a shitty freaking place. And I had this rage just come up through me, through the earth. I'm standing up, looking down at myself I'm looking at myself about to inject. And I had this freaking rage that I've never felt before in my life. And there's these dress shoes that I wear that are laceless. I just kind of slip. They're kind of like loafers, but they're dress shoes. And I'm standing up, and I wanted to turn because I was looking at myself, and I was sitting there with my legs crossed, so I'm much lower. I wanted to turn and just kick. I wanted to take this pointy shoe that I have and stick it straight through my fucking head and take my head off. It was the most rage I have ever felt in my life. I was so disgusted looking at myself about to do this. Like I looked weak. I was pale. I was skinny, scrawny, and I'm hanging out with just the worst of the worst. And here I am, like wanting to scream at myself, how did you get here? How the fuck did you get here? And I'm in this like dream state of Ibogaine. And I fucking grabbed myself as hard as I could, and I picked myself up and I threw myself against the wall. And I'm screaming at myself, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? And I started punching. I'm like, what are you doing? I mean, I know this is kind of, to some people, graphic, but it was like blood red rage that came through me over this, watching this. And during this, so I'm hitting myself. You fucking idiot. You fucking pussy. You are throwing your life away. What are you doing? And here I am, against the wall, and I'm like, don't hurt me. I'm being weak and everything. And here I am just going and going. And I wanted to just this is so visceral. I wanted to take my freaking head off. Anyway, so I grab myself and I pull myself out of this room, and I'm dragging myself. There's these stairs. So you go out of the room, and there's these stairs that go down and then out to this little parking lot. And I threw myself in this vision. I threw myself down the stairs. Boom, 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 boom. I walked down the stairs. Boom, 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 boom. And I'm just fucking mad. It's not even mad. Mad is not the word. It's incredible visceral rage. And I grab myself and I kick the door open. I drag myself out to the parking lot. I'm dragging this wimpy, weak me in this former life who's crying and being a pussy, and I'm like, shut up. And I can feel the rage just telling this story. I open the back of the car, and I grab myself and I throw myself into the back of the car, and I slam the door, right? I'm just, again, blood red rage. Walk around, I get in the driver's seat, and I was a hunter, and like I've been around guns my whole life, and got a lot of shotguns and handguns and rifles and all this. I've never had a wheel gun. I've never had a revolver. But for some reason in this vision, I had a revolver. I open up, so I throw myself into the back of the car. I walk around, I get in the driver's seat, and I reach into the glove box, and I pull out a wheel gun. And for some reason, it was really big. It was like really fat. And in this vision, I turn around into the back seat, and I shove this gun through my mouth, the guy in the back seat, to the point where I felt teeth break. And and myself is laying in the back, like quivering and crying and soft and weak, again, pale, scrawny. And I'm looking at myself, and I have the gun shoved in my mouth in the back seat, and I couldn't stop shoving it. I wanted, like, this gun is in the mouth. I wanted it to go straight through my head. I was shoving it so hard. I was so mad. I was so upset with myself watching me. And I said, and I was screaming, not yelling, screaming, blood rage, screaming. I'm not going to scream it, but what I said was, you're going to treatment, or I'm going to fucking kill you. Pick one. And then the dream kind of faded away right after that. And it was so, and I woke up after that. And I had a camera on me the whole time. And I wanted to make sure that I got this out, because I thought, when you go through experiences like this, I was kind of worried that these experiences can be fleeting. You can experience it, but if you don't document it or remember it, like, they can go away. So I sat up, and I'm ataxic. When you do Ibogaine, you're ataxic. So, like, if you open your eyes, when you have to have your eyes closed to have the visions, but if you open your eyes, the whole world is kind of shaking like this. But I made it to the side of my bed, and I'm looking at the camera that I had running, and I told the story to the camera because I didn't want to forget that. And I have a whole bunch of other things that happened too. But anyways, backing up, I started the Ibogaine about like 8 in the morning on, I think it was a Tuesday. And I was in this dream state until at least Wednesday evening. Wednesday around dinner time, I could walk again, and you pretty much sleep the whole time. You know where you are, but you have these experiences. You watch yourself from a third-party perspective. You see all the shit that you did. You see all the shit that has happened to you. You experience all of this stuff, but you're just watching it. Like, you're not reliving it. I mean, you kind of are, but you're watching it happen. And it's the craziest thing in the world. And it's not fun. It's not a party drug. There's nothing that's fun about it. But again, it shows you how you got to this point, why you are the way you are. And it fixes people. It fixes. When I was carrying around all this guilt and baggage and crap that I did through my addiction, and that I carried around from beforehand, and that I carried around from, you know, stuff when I was young, and parents breaking up, and, you know, shit that happened at school and whatever. And it's weird that we carry around all of this shit, all this stuff. We carry around all this stuff like it's a black, just gooey crap that we carry around. And the more crap that happens to us, the bigger this mound becomes that we have to carry. And oddly, Ibogaine, again, while it was incredibly difficult, when you come out of it, you are a changed human being. It releases all of it. This huge backpack that you have gets taken off of you. And you feel so much better afterwards. And this is not just for opioid addicts. I mean, I think it does work the best for opioid addicts, but I mean, you could have PTSD, anxiety, depression. Hell, you could be a hoarder, a sex addict, whatever. And for some reason, this drug, and no one knows how it actually works, it relieves you of all this stuff. It resets you to your pre-addiction state. I don't know how it works. I don't get it. I don't think anyone really does. But I think this is a thing given from the universe or from God or from whatever you want to call it. This is here for a reason. It's because when we sometimes as human beings, we can get on the wrong path, and this will reset you. And I'm not perfect. I'm still not. But I'm definitely a different human being because of it. And I want this story to get out, and I want to tell my story even more. We talked about this, and we're gonna continue doing more. But that one story about the first interaction that I had under Ibogaine was the craziest thing, the craziest experience that I went, and then I have multiples. I have maybe not multiples. I got like 5 other stories that I experienced while I was under. And this thing helps people, and I don't know why the pharma or the government or whoever wants this to be illegal, because it genuinely helps people. And